Wittenberg Project. So this applies to all, but more directly to my tradition, that Luth life, that Lutheran. So we place a big value on history, but it's almost as if we stop at Martin Luther. Like every VBS, you'll hear about Martin Luther, you'll hear about things of that nature, but you don't hear about too much other people. It's a good thing, don't get me wrong, we're all focused on Christ. I get that. But recently something came up online where a guy was saying, who are the Lutheran martyrs? And things of that nature. And I thought about this before, but I'll talk about it now. You know what I'm saying? A lot could be learned and a lot could be valued and treasured about our history. Like, you hear people talk about things like Spurgeon and Macon and whatever his name is, from other traditions. But after Martin Luther, most people don't have a clue of anyone else to talk about, or any other example, or ways that we contributed apart from the Reformation to this thing in Christendom. And I don't get it. I mean, we're not anti-saint, we're not anti-history, but we don't show how much we appreciate it, or show how much we value how God worked through his various means through people's lives. I mean, we have things like, not just mention Melanchthon. He wrote the Loci, who other traditions modeled pretty much their institutes and things after. We have people like Johann Gerhard, a brilliant mind. Martin Chemnitz, people who Roman Catholics called the second Martin, that without him, things might have died off. I doubt that, but that's what people say. It's so much in history that should be valued, and we should do a better job ourselves, at least from my perspective, of presenting that. Like, Martin Luther ain't the end all be all. Let's be honest. I mean, the Prince Frederick did a lot. What more can we do? I mean, to me, like, I learned a lot studying history that I value. Like Jacob Andreas, he had a debate with Beza. No one knows about this. No one knows in our tradition, I'll say. Some people might not care. And that's fine. But I'm more talking to us. You know what I mean? Talking to us about us. Our tradition is rich. I mean, people don't even know that we had a black college. Concordia, Selma Concordia in Alabama, and the beautiful story behind there. We do ourselves a disservice. By not highlighting our history. Like, for instance, us having the HBCU, right? And this is personal for me. Our denomination pretty much is 98% white. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a good thing. But you don't think that, like, that's something that people would value to know? Maybe they wouldn't have to close down their school if we actually highlight our history and how we've been impacted and how we've used the gifts that God gave us to develop and to enhance things and to reach out and save people. Like I said, we should do more. I mean, I would love to see pictures of saints and people that we value in our tradition up on the walls and things of that nature. So when a kid asks, who's that? That small question can develop into so much more. Oh, who's that? That's such and such. I mean, that was brave of the missionary who went down there and who actually set something up to help people. It's a lot of things that we could put on a pedestal and talk about. I don't get it. I mean, we have people, like I said, I mentioned in a recent blog about how some Lutheran pastors were beheaded in Ethiopia. I don't think many people know about that. And these are things that, I mean, when people talk about, like, oh, what theologian should I read or this and that, people know guys from various traditions. But when I ask a fellow Lutheran, they have to name people from other traditions as if we don't have our own scholars, our own people who have deeply impacted history and our development of theology, about how we view things, how we think about things. They have no clue. And this is in-house. I'm talking in-house. Like, they have no idea, no clue. It's literally Martin Luther, and then we skip to today. That's it. I mean, that's literally it. I mean, Melanchthon, Martin Luther praised the work of Melanchthon about his Roman commentary, his Loci, the Augsburg Confession. Many people don't know that most of the Book of Concord isn't even written by Martin Luther. It sounds far-fetched, you know. A big thing we talk about is second use of the law. But we value third use of the law. Other people wrote that. Other people wrote about that and developed that. It's just that we especially should place more emphasis on this, considering that our whole confession, we always make sure we point back, showing that we're not inventing. We say things like, you know, early church fathers profess this and this and this. Okay, so we have a high value of them, but we don't show it. We don't show it. And how much could we really impact our youth and other people if we really gave them faces to these people, you know, where they don't think that it's just the Anabaptists or the Baptists, however you want to word it, they're contributing to American history or to history in general theology. I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me. Like, I mean, I'm not saying we should have feast days, but what would be wrong with that? Now, the common rebuttal is we don't pray to saints. I haven't mentioned saying their prayer to a saint yet. I ain't mentioned that at all. What I'm talking about is just an aspect of talking about and showing that we understand where we came from and how we have impacted things and the dedication and the way God has worked with people's lives. There's nothing wrong with that. We should do a way better job of highlighting things and talking about things. Our history, I mean, and we wonder why people think that, oh, you guys just follow Martin Luther. And then we get, no, we don't. And then we try to defend that. But I see why they say that. I honestly see why they say that. Like, we have no reference point in regards to other people and how they contributed to Lutheranism. And there's a slew of people. That literally impacted half things. I mean, Francis Pieper, Walther. I mean, those people who are part of my actual denomination, but they contribute a lot to Lutheran thought. I mean, even if we go further back, Martin Luther wrote something defending the church and the historic faith against Islam and the invasion, pretty much, of Islam. I've heard that he referenced or pretty much used a model from St. John Damascus. Another person, another saint from the early 8th century. Great man that God used. But we don't mention those aspects of history or things of that nature. I mean, some of the study will mention, oh, Augustine. That's who everybody mentions, which is fine. Nothing's wrong with that. But John Christendom. I mean, there's a slew of other people that have done a lot that we value and we treasure. I'll say it. We treasure their thought and their influence and the way God used them to expound on Scripture, explain things, and set precedent for various things. Johann Bach, huge figure in history. Like, he was Lutheran. He was for a time span. He was Lutheran. Things like that can motivate people, where you can say, have a picture of him, like, oh, he's the one who wrote a lot of these hymns that we sing. Through music, he shared the gospel with all these people and tie it back to how it ties to them, how he believes God works in this and this. It's just, I mean, it's annoying. It's annoying. It's annoying that people that do value their history are able to pass it down to people who don't even value the history, and they know things like, and you can talk to Roman Catholics and things of that nature. They don't know all the saints. They'll know a few of them. Know why? Because in their tradition, they make a point of valuing how God worked in people's lives and things that were done. And we definitely value that. We definitely value how God's worked in people's lives. I'm going to keep it real with you. I get tired of only hearing about Martin Luther. It's one of the main reasons why when I first started studying, I make sure I avoided Martin Luther's writings. Yes, I did. I made sure that because that's all I hear about, to the point where I almost at first thought, this is somewhat idolatry. Like, this is the only guy we talk about? Like, without him, there's nothing? But then I started learning and studying and realized that no. He's a big figure, and he wrote and had some great concepts. But Martin Kimmonen's Two Natures of Christ, one of the best books, if not the best books, written on the Lord's Supper, and how he develops it, and how he not develops it, but how he talks about the connection of that and why the real presence of Christ is needed, necessary, and is there. A brilliant work. Only people you don't hear talk about it, though, is pastors and people in our tradition on a high level. But we could help people get more interested in it if we actually valued it, talked about it, mentioned it, had a day where, like, this is the feast of such and such. What's that mean? Oh, and then we go into it and we talk about it. How this person impacted this. How this person stood up for the truth. Something that really could motivate people. I met people who know who Mother Teresa is, don't know anything about the lady. Nothing about her. All they know is the nun. Yeah, she was Catholic. Real holy type person. But they know. And I already know this is a real high church type concept. High church type thing. You're wrong. But fundamentally, we act like when it comes to this topic, like a low church. We act like we don't value it. We act like it doesn't matter. Like, oh, okay, people helped. But Jesus. Okay, yes, it is. It's never a but Jesus. It's Jesus. But people the Holy Spirit has worked through people's lives to enable and enhance good works. The Bible talks about, don't let your good works hide.